In this lesson, we'll continue building the geometric forms for our factory. Alright, so in the previous lesson, we set up sort of the boundary of our factory here, and being the sidewalk that's going to be around the parking lot for this factory. Now, we've also set the footprint of the factory, or the main body of the factory here. So I think we're ready to go ahead and handle the elevation. Now, remember, we've got the buildings on their own layer right now, so that we can keep that separate from the sidewalk that we've already done. Now, I went ahead and worked a little more on the sidewalk, but I didn't do anything else that, we weren't familiar with how to do. So let's go ahead and begin drawing in the rest of our factory, or the elevation, in other words. So we'll come in here and let's go ahead and handle the vertical lines first. So we'll go ahead and start with this corner piece right here. I'm just going to draw a line up, just like so. And, we've drawn that line, and that looks like a pretty good line. So I tell you what, let's go ahead and lasso that up. Just like so. We'll zoom in on that, make sure we got every bit of that line. And we do. So we'll lasso that up, and we're going to make a copy of this that we can actually take over and place on the other corners of this building. Now, we're going to need one over here. And I'm placing this in the exact same position. I'm setting it on top of that corner brick. And we're going to need one over here. Now, these aren't going to be the definitive elevations here because I'd like this back half of the building to be taller than the front half. So I'm going to come over and make copies of that for each one of these 6 corners here. So we've got the same starting point. And we'll go ahead and drag this last one over just like so. All right, great. Alright, great. So we'll go ahead and deselect that here. And I think we're ready to go ahead and begin bringing in some of these horizontal lines. So let me go ahead and grab my brush tool. We're going to go ahead and grab, let's say maybe about a 60 brick line here. Let's go ahead and drop that in. That looks like we'll just drop that in over here outside the building. And we're going to lasso that up. And let's go ahead and flip that horizontally. And we're going to drag that on over and in. Now this line is a little bit too long, but we'll actually just shave that down and erase away the extra if we need to. So keeping in mind that this corner brick should overlay with this vertical line similar to this brick right here. So we need to bump that over one more. Now it looks like we're seeing a little bit of a problem here because this line right here is not overlapping that brick in the same position as it's overlapping this one down here. So let's just go ahead and drag this down here and match this up to the original line that we used for our base. And let's go ahead and just line that up here, just like so. Go ahead and drag that on up now. There we go. Now we've got one extra pixel there we aren't going to need, so we can erase that. But let's go ahead and just make sure we've got that about in the right position. Zooming out, thinking about how tall we want this part of the building to be. And maybe just a little bit taller here. Let's go about right there. That looks pretty good. So at this point, let's go ahead and deselect that, and we can come in and erase away these extra pixels here. We got one extra pixel there, remember? And we're ready to go. So we've got that line created. Let's go ahead and create our next line here. Now this is probably a good time to mention that I'm not going to walk through creating every single detail of this building. I think there's a lot of repetition that is sort of inherent with creating pixel art, and it's not going to suit you to have to sit through watching me build every single detail of this building. So I think that in order to do this, I think that what I'll probably focus on is things we haven't covered yet, or things that may cause you problems in creating your building. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this line right here. I'm going to have to raise these up some though. So before I position that line, let's go ahead and elevate this half of the building just a little bit more with our 1 pixel brush. And we may have over elevated that a little bit, but I think we'll use that for right now. So let's go ahead and lasso this up. And we'll swing that into position here. That looks pretty good. So we'll come in at this point. Let's go ahead and reconnect this corner here. Erase away our extra. Actually, I want to make sure that line is perfectly lined up, so I'm going to undo a few times here. And, before I erase away that extra, let's go ahead and drag that down. I want to match that up, make sure that is even with the line below. And it is not. So we'll go ahead and nudge that over once and get it overlaying on that line down there. Let's drag it on up here. And that looks pretty good there. So we'll go ahead and deselect that and connect this here. And then again, erase away our extra. Now for erasing large amounts of pixels, you can always use your marquee tool and just hit your backspace key, just like so. And we've created that horizontal line. Now with those two lines created, it should be relatively easy to create the other lines for the elevation of this building. So I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and grab our 100 brick line again. I'm going to go ahead and drop one in here, and let's just swing that into position here. We know exactly how that should meet up in this left corner here. Let's go ahead and overlap that just like so. And it looks like we're starting to run out of room at the top of our document, but that's okay. We can always fix that later. I'm going to go ahead and just drag a copy of that line down. And let's set it right here. Let's go ahead and drag another copy of that over to here. And lastly, we're going to drag one more copy of that over to here. Alright, we'll just come in and erase away that extra pixel right there. And we can just come in and reconnect and erase away any extra lines here. So let me just deselect that. Let's come in and reconnect this line here. Switching to our 1 pixel brush. That one looks pretty good. And I tell you what, let's just come in here and borrow some of these lines we've already drawn. Let's go ahead and grab this one with our lasso tool. Make a copy of that and bring that over here and line that up. And let's make another copy and bring it over here. We can fill in any extra pixels. So really, again, we're just building the basic geometric foundation for our building here. It looks like we've got a little bit of an issue here as far as things lining up, and we may have got something a little bit off. I'm going to go ahead and probably look at that in between lessons and get that corrected for you. But what I want to show you now is that if I go ahead and erase away these extra line segments that we don't need, we've started creating areas that we don't need here. So let me go ahead and just delete that, and we'll get rid of this right here. And you can see we didn't complete this line right here, but that actually is not a visible line. So check this out. Let's go ahead and hide our sidewalk layer just to get that out of the way. And you see we've created a lot of faces here that would not be visible if this was one solid building. Now it's at this point in my own process where I'd come in here and I'd go ahead and add a layer mask here, because once you start creating a lot of these faces that are not really visible, things are going to get really chaotic really fast and really confusing, because you can see already with the sidewalk there, it's starting to get a bit confusing. So let's go ahead and create a layer mask here. We'll come in and let's go ahead and just paint over some of these lines. Let's go ahead and paint over this one right here. Paint over that all the way down. Now here's a neat little trick. I tell you what, we've got our brush selected. We're painting a mask, so I'm going to go ahead and click once on this right pixel of this brick. Let's come down and hold shift, and we'll click on that same pixel for this brick. We can get most of the line work done. So let me go ahead and try that one more time here. There we go. You can see here that you can erase an entire line just simply by shift clicking between places where you've dropped your mouse. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. And we'll go ahead and erase this line. I'm saying that we're erasing these when actually we're masking them out. So don't let me confuse you there. And again, I like to mask things out instead of destroying the line work we've already created. So you just need to make sure you have your mask selected when you want to mask. And if you want to draw again, you need to make sure and select the other square here on that layer. So we'll come back in here and fill in a few of these areas. It looks like we masked out. Let's go ahead and switch to our white foreground color and fix those little areas on these lines where we masked out. So we've created sort of the basic geometric forms for the main body of the building. I think what I'd like to do is maybe add in another structure right here, maybe a smaller structure, maybe it's an office, something like that. So I'll go ahead and do that in between lessons, as well as resolve the little issue we had here with the corners. And when we pick up in the next lesson, we'll begin creating some smaller details like windows.